Then, a few months passed. The town of Elmswood whispered of the strange events, the tremors and lights that had shaken their lives. But as whispers often do, they turned into legends, tales to scare children and amuse the old folks. Yet, for Brandon, the pain remained raw, a wound that no victory could heal. It was during these quiet moments of solitude that an idea began to bloom in his mind, an idea born from the ashes of his desperation. If the master hand could cross from the digital to the real world, perhaps there was a way to bring Rachel back, to give her a second chance at life. One evening, as he sat in Rachel's favorite chair, the scent of her lingering in the air, he remembered the one-up mushroom. It was a myth, a gaming artifact that could grant an extra life, a symbol of hope in the face of insurmountable odds. His thoughts raced, a feverish hope taking hold of him. He had to find it. He had to try. With a newfound purpose, Brandon set out into the strange, pixelated forest that had grown in the wake of the battle, a place where reality and his favorite games had merged into something eerily beautiful and hauntingly unpredictable. The trees whispered with the secrets of lost quests, their leaves shimmering with the glow of forgotten coins and health packs. The air hummed with the distant melodies of game over screens and victory fanfares. He followed a path that seemed to be drawn in the dirt by Rachel's own hand, each step taking him closer to the mushroom's rumored resting place. It was a journey fraught with danger and the echoes of his past, but Brandon was undeterred. Rachel was waiting for him, and he would move heaven and earth to bring her back. The forest grew denser, the shadows deeper, and the sounds grew more sinister. Yet Brandon pushed on, driven by a love that defied the very fabric of reality. He encountered creatures that had stepped from the screens of his childhood, some friendly, others not. They tested him, probed his resolve, but he would not be swayed. His eyes never left the path, his mind never wavered from the goal. Finally, in a clearing bathed in the ethereal glow of a full moon, he found it. The one-up mushroom stood tall and proud, its cap a vibrant green that seemed to pulse with life. The moment he laid eyes on it, Brandon knew it was real, that it held the power he sought. His heart swelled with hope, the kind that made the world seem just a little less broken. He reached out, his hand trembling, and plucked the mushroom from the earth. It felt warm and alive, humming with a power that seemed to resonate with the very core of his being. He had found the key to Rachel's resurrection, and with it, the chance to right the universe's most heinous wrong. Holding the one-up mushroom close to his chest, Brandon made his way back through the forest, the trees seeming to cheer him on with their silent whispers. The house stood before him, Rachel's memory a beacon guiding him home. He stepped through the door, the mushroom's warmth a comfort against the cold emptiness that had become his sanctuary. With a trembling hand, he placed the mushroom on Rachel's favorite plate, her smiling face staring back at him from a framed photograph. The room was filled with an anticipatory silence, the air charged with the electricity of possibility. The mushroom glowed, and the room grew warm. A soft light began to emanate from it, growing brighter until it filled every corner of the room, driving back the shadows of his grief. Then, with a gentle pop, Rachel stood before him, her eyes wide with wonder, her smile as brilliant as the day he had first seen her. The world around them stuttered and blurred as the power of the one-up mushroom did its work, the digital and the real becoming one. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the weight of their shared loss suspended in the air between them. Then Rachel took a tentative step forward, her hand reaching out to touch his face, to make sure he was real. "You did it," she whispered, her voice a symphony of joy and disbelief. Brandon could only nod, his own voice lost in the maelstrom of emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. He wrapped his arms around her, feeling the warmth of her body, the softness of her hair, the reality of her. Rachel was back, and the world felt right again. The town of Elmswood watched with a mix of awe and fear as the two emerged from the house, hand in hand. Rachel looked around at the pixelated landscape, her eyes wide with wonder. "What happened?" she asked, her voice still faint from the long silence. Brandon took a deep breath, trying to find the words to explain the unexplainable. "I brought you back," he said simply, "with the power of the games we used to play." Rachel looked at him with a mix of love and bewilderment, but she didn't question it further. They had each other, and for now, that was enough. But the games didn't end with Rachel's return. The nights grew restless with the sounds of battles fought in distant lands, the cries of creatures that didn't belong in this reality. The TV in the living room flickered with images of worlds colliding, a constant reminder of the fragile balance Brandon had created. He knew the one-up mushroom had come with a price, a debt that had to be paid to the universe. Yet, he couldn't bear the thought of losing Rachel again, not after all he'd been through. So, he continued his quest, venturing into the digital realms that had bled into his own, seeking a way to keep her safe. Rachel, ever the adventurous spirit, accompanied him, her own curiosity and love for the games fueling their journey. They faced down Bowser, bested Sephiroth, and even danced with the sands of time with the elegance of a Final Fantasy summon. With each victory, the bond between them grew stronger, and the shadows of their grief grew smaller. They became the heroes of their own story, fighting for each other in a world that was both their salvation and their curse. Their battles became legendary, whispered about in the digital halls of Hyrule and the Mushroom Kingdom. Yet there was one force they hadn't reckoned with, one that watched their every move with a cold, calculating eye. The Master Hand had not been destroyed, merely banished. And now, it plotted its return, seeking the power of the one-up mushroom for its own nefarious ends. The digital realm grew restless, and the whispers grew louder. A storm was brewing, one that threatened to engulf not just Elmswood, but the very fabric of reality itself. And as the clouds gathered, Brandon and Rachel knew that their greatest challenge was yet to come. One night, as they sat in the quiet of their restored home, the TV flickered to life without warning, casting an eerie glow across Rachel's puzzled face. "You killed my brother!" A voice spoke, a twisted, maddening echo of the Master Hand's. On the screen, a new form took shape, a grotesque amalgamation of chaos and malice. Crazy Hand had arrived, a being born of the darkest code, a sibling to the creature Brandon had defeated. "Now you will pay!" It cackled, the sound grating against the very fabric of their world. The room grew cold, the air thick with the scent of ozone and the promise of destruction. Rachel clutched Brandon's hand tightly as he stood, the hammer and sword at his side once more. "We will not go quietly," he vowed, his voice a steady beacon in the swirling tempest. Crazy Hand's laughter was the only reply, a cacophony that seemed to come from every corner of the room. The screen warped and twisted until it spat forth a monstrous hand, clawing its way into their reality. In a desperate bid to even the odds, Brandon dashed to the kitchen, Rachel on his heels. They had studied the games, learned the secrets of their favorite heroes. With trembling hands, he concocted a potent brew, a mix of ingredients that shimmered with the promise of untapped power. "Drink," he urged Rachel, passing her a steaming cup. "It's a super Scion Serum. It will give us the strength to face Crazy Hand." Rachel nodded, her eyes gleaming with determination, and together they downed the potion. A fiery warmth spread through their veins, their bodies transforming before their very eyes, hair spiking upward and muscles bulging with the power of 100 suns. The house trembled as the two emerged, their auras blazing with the power of the super science. The transformation was complete, and with Rachel by his side, Brandon knew that they could face whatever this maddened force threw at them. The battle was about to begin anew, a dance of power and fury that would echo through the ages. Crazy Hand's grin grew wider as he saw their new forms, but Brandon's gaze was unwavering, his grip on the sword firm. Rachel raised the hammer, her eyes shining with the light of 1,000 stars. Together, they charged into the night, ready to defend their world from the digital invasion. Their first encounter with Crazy Hand was a whirlwind of chaos and power. The hand danced through the air, its movements erratic and unpredictable, a stark contrast to the methodical brutality of its sibling. Brandon and Rachel moved as one, their reflexes sharper than ever before. The ground shook with the force of their blows, the air crackling with the energy that surrounded them. Yet, Crazy Hand was a formidable opponent, its unpredictable nature making it near impossible to pin down. They fought through the night, the sky above a canvas of explosions and energy blasts. The town watched from their windows, unable to comprehend the spectacle that unfolded before them. But Brandon and Rachel knew that this was their destiny, a battle forged from love and loss. They pushed themselves to the brink, their power growing stronger with every clash. The world of games had become their reality, and they would not let it consume them without a fight. As the sun began to rise, a strange silence fell over the battlefield. Crazy Hand hovered, its form wavering, and Brandon knew that the end was near. He gathered all the strength he had left, all the love he had for Rachel, and swung the sword with the precision of a master swordsman. The blade sliced through the digital air, leaving a trail of light that seemed to cut through the very essence of Crazy Hand. The creature howled, its form flickering like a dying flame. With one final, desperate attack, Rachel brought down her hammer, the force of the blow resonating through the very fabric of the world. Crazy Hand's body split apart, the shadows dissipating into nothingness. The TV screen went black, the room still except for the heavy breathing of the victorious couple. They had survived the first wave of the digital onslaught, but the taste of victory was bittersweet. They knew the master hand would not rest until it had reclaimed its dominion over reality. Brandon and Rachel stood in the wreckage of their once peaceful home, their hearts pounding in their chests. "What now?" Rachel whispered, her voice hoarse from the battle. Brandon looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had seen him through the darkest of days. "We keep fighting," he said, determination etched into every line of his face. "We find a way to send these creatures back to where they belong." Rachel nodded, her grip on the hammer tightening. They were bound by a love that transcended the boundaries of life and pixels, and together, they would face whatever the digital realm threw at them. The town of Elmswood had become a battleground for the forces of good and evil, the very games they had once enjoyed now a harsh reality that threatened to consume them all. The townsfolk banded together, using their own knowledge of gaming strategy to bolster their defenses. They knew that Brandon and Rachel were their protectors, the ones who could stand against the digital tide. In the days that followed, the couple trained tirelessly, pushing their newfound powers to the limit. They studied the patterns of the invaders, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. Rachel's mind, once a whirlwind of color and creativity, now dissected every move, every glitch, with the precision of a master tactician. And Brandon, with Rachel's love as his shield, grew stronger with every swing of his sword, the blade singing a song of hope and vengeance. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a fiery array of colors, they received a message. A glowing, ethereal envelope appeared in the sky, floating gently towards them. It contained a map, a guide to the heart of the digital realm. It was time to take the fight to the master hand, to face the creature that had shattered their world and stolen Rachel away. They looked at each other, and without a word, they knew it was time. They had been granted a second chance, and they would not let it go to waste. With a fierce resolve, they set off on their most dangerous quest yet, into the very heart of the game worlds they had once only visited from the safety of their couch. The journey ahead was fraught with danger and the unknown, but Brandon and Rachel had each other, and that was all they needed. They marched through the pixelated lands, facing down foes that grew stronger with every step. Yet, with each victory, they grew more in sync, their movements a dance of power and love. The digital realm watched them, both in awe and fear, for they had become the stuff of legend. They were the ones who had cheated death, who had brought a glimmer of hope to a world torn apart by the whims of a mad god. As they approached the final bastion of the Master Hand's power, the air grew thick with tension. The very ground beneath them seemed to pulse with malicious intent, the trees whispering dark secrets of battles to come. But Brandon and Rachel didn't falter. They had come too far, lost too much, to let fear dictate their actions now. The Master Hand awaited them, its eyes burning with the fury of 1,000 suns, the very embodiment of the chaos it sought to unleash. The battle was fiercer than any they had faced before. The Master Hand had learned from its previous encounter, its movements now swift and unpredictable, a blur of rage and shadow. But Brandon and Rachel had learned as well, their love for each other a beacon in the chaos. They moved together, a whirlwind of light and thunder, each strike and spell a declaration of their unyielding spirit. The earth trembled with the force of their clash, the sky above crackling with the power of their wills. And then, in a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the master hand stumbled. Rachel saw her opening and took it, her hammer arcing through the air with the grace of a comet. It struck true, the blow echoing through the very fabric of existence. The creature roared, a sound that seemed to shake the very foundations of the digital world, and then, it was gone. The realm around them stilled, the air thick with the anticipation of what came next. The screen flickered, and Rachel's heart leaped as she watched the world around them begin to pixelate and break apart. "No," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "We can't lose everything we've built." But Brandon's grip on her hand was firm, his gaze steady. "We won't," he said, his voice filled with the conviction of 1,000 heroes. The digital realm had become their battleground, and the fate of their world rested on their shoulders. The air grew still as the last vestiges of the master hand's power faded away. Rachel looked around, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the creature's return. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Brandon took a deep breath, his eyes still locked on the spot where the hand had vanished. "We find a way to keep it from coming back," he said, determination in his tone. "We need to find the source of its power, the one-up mushroom, and destroy it." Rachel nodded, her grip on the hammer tight. They had come too far, fought too hard, to let the master hand return and threaten their world again. They ventured deeper into the digital wasteland, the landscape shifting and morphing around them. They encountered glitches, remnants of shattered games that had been twisted by the master hand's influence. Rachel's eyes darted, searching for any clue that might lead them to the mushroom. Brandon's hand was warm and steady on her shoulder, his sword at the ready. Together, they forged ahead, a united front against the chaos that sought to unravel their reality. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of lost characters and forgotten stories. Rachel's heart raced as she recognized the tune of her favorite childhood game, a melody that seemed to guide them through the madness. It grew stronger, a beacon in the digital storm, and soon, they stood before a gleaming tower. At its peak, a pulsing light shone, the heart of the one-up mushroom's power. The tower was a labyrinth of traps and trials, each floor a tribute to a different game, each more deadly than the last. They scaled the pixelated walls with the grace of a pair of platforming pros, dodging spikes and fireballs that sought their doom. Rachel's hammer swung with the precision of a plumber's, each blow a testament to her unyielding spirit. They encountered friends and foes alike, some offering aid, others seeking to bar their path. On the final floor, they faced the ultimate challenge. A boss fight unlike any they had ever seen, a monstrous amalgamation of every game they had ever played, twisted by the corrupting influence of the one-up mushroom. Its eyes, cold and dead, gleamed with a malicious intelligence. "You cannot destroy what is eternal," it growled, its voice a symphony of digital distortion. But Brandon and Rachel were not to be deterred. They had come too far, fought too hard, for a future where Elmswood could live in peace. They leaped into battle, their hearts beating in time with the pulsing light of the mushroom's power. Rachel's hammer smashed through the creature's defenses, while Brandon's sword danced with a fury that could only be born from love and loss. The air grew thick with electricity as the creature roared, its pixels stretching and contorting in agony. The tower shuddered and cracked, the very essence of the digital realm seeming to bend to their will. Rachel's eyes never left the prize, the mushrooms light a beacon of hope in the chaos. With a final, desperate swing, she sent the creature reeling, and with a mighty leap, Brandon plunged the sword into the heart of the one-up mushroom, the blade sizzling with the power of 1,000 suns. The light grew blinding, and the world around them disintegrated into a sea of pixels. Rachel clung to Brandon, her heart pounding with fear and exhilaration. They had done it, they had vanquished the source of the digital plague. But as the light faded, they found themselves standing not in the ruins of the tower, but in the quiet sanctity of Rachel's garden, the real world once again solid beneath their feet. The games had been defeated, and the digital world was no more. Rachel felt a pang of loss for the adventures they'd shared, but she knew this was where they truly belonged.